how many of the women are pointing this out? My man, I don't feel him man enough. Hi everyone, I am Tente and I'm back with another podcast. And today I want to share about the dark masculine. So, for those who haven't heard anything about dark masculine, I'm just gonna give a quick insight of what are the differences or what is actually existing out there. And this, of course, comes from a tantric approach. So from there is where we talk a lot about dark masculine and light masculine, also dark feminine and light feminine. So basically, we have, as I just mentioned, we have the feminine energy, we have the masculine energy, and both energy are existing in each gender. So it's not a separation between gender, it's just something that is alive in the female body, but also in the male body. Now, once we have divided this, we can also divide in between light and dark. Now, I'm not going into each one of them because today I want to share about the dark masculine. The dark masculine is something that I really enjoy sharing because it's the most challenging topic that you can find out there. So, with this said, I want you I want to invite you to see if inside of you you can identify when or where or at which moment you felt that dark energy. And when I speak about dark energy, it's nothing really negative, even though we usually attribute it as something negative, because this is how society has teach us to relate towards that dark energy. Usually dark or darkness is something really negative. um, yeah, many times you see this as well in horror movies and any other type of movie where the darkness is the bad, right? Well, in this type of dark, I'm inviting you to not see it as something negative, but maybe to see it as something unhealthy. So if you feel into it, you can identify some of the aspect of the dark masculine which are unhealthy. And unhealthy is usually aggressivity, violence, very intense, the way how we maybe speak or how we get angry, how we relate to angriness, and are to really strong emotions. They usually can wake up this dark masculine. So, what I want to bring up here is that we don't stigmatize dark masculine anymore. We stopped doing it because what happened in the society, what you can see now is that this dark masculine, this aspect that usually is very represented in alpha males, and it's usually represented through aggressivity, intensity, and violence, has been condemned by society. And in consequence, especially with this feminist movement that has condemned that distorted dark masculine, but they have condemned it with a lack of consciousness, a lack of understanding what is it. So we're condemning the dark masculine as a whole instead of just understanding, yes, this distortion of the dark masculine is not healthy for our society. So we initiate this movement in order to heal it. This is when we do it on a conscious way. However, and unfortunately, this is not really how it happened. What started happening is a very intense judgment towards dark masculine, especially coming from those type of movements as the feminist movement. And by itself, the movement is not nothing wrong. It's just normal. This is how we do in society. This is how we are as humans. But it's nice and healthy to finally also understand where movements are happening and what are the consequences of the movement when we initiate something and we say no to something. or we stand up for our rights and we say, no, this has to end. And that ends, right? Which is good and positive, I would say. Now, on the other side of the story, what is happening, there is an oppression of the dark masculine because there is no healing. It's just a judgment, and then in consequence, we oppress it. So many male bodies and also female bodies, but I just want to focus on the male body. Many men have oppressed their dark masculine because they fear to be judged. They fear to be labeled as violent, aggressive, and so and so and so on. So, what has happened with this? What does happen? What is the consequence that happens when you oppress your dark masculine? Is that you become less masculine, even though you still have your light masculine, but the dark is something very specific and very man, very masculine energy. It's really dense. You can feel that when you're like, wow, this man is really a male, right? This is because there's a lot of dark masculine alive and represented in his body. So when you oppress that energy and you're denying that aspect of you, then what you still have left, because you're rejecting it, is, are you light masculine or are you feminine side? And this is when you observe in society, let's see it from an outstanding point of view, we can easily identify in many male bodies that that they became less masculine and more feminine, which in consequence has brought up, in order to balance this, the awakening of the masculine inside of the female body. And by nature or biology, or just because that's how we are born, but generally speaking, and I'm pointing this out, there's always exceptions. But generally speaking, the female body holds more feminine energy, and the male body holds more masculine energy. So what happens is that suddenly many female body has to step into the masculine in order to compensate the lack of masculinity represented in the male body. And you see this a lot in relationships struggling because there is a lack of masculinity. How many of the women are pointing this out? My man, I don't feel him man enough. But maybe on the other side, they are judging the energy that makes him man, which is the dark masculine, because they are in this hype and in this trend of feminism condemning the dark masculine. And there is a lack of consciousness. So you cannot really see what is the consequences of this behavior. So now it is time for us men, and if there is a woman listening, also to promote this and maybe to share it with your man or with any other male body, to understand what dark masculine is and to stop oppressing it and more in going into an embracement instead of a rejection. The power of the dark masculine, it is perceived indeed as aggressive and violent, but this is the distorted part. If it's not distorted and it's healthy, what you feel is a really dense energy of a grounded man. A man that is grounded and a man that is centered. A man that can protect his family and whatever he has to protect. He is sharp in decisions. He can take decisions. And there is a lack of fear. And there is this aspect which is very animal and a bit tribal as well, that is alive in this masculine. It's so close to the earth, that's why we call it grounding, that it feels more animalistic. And this is something that also in lovemaking is missing a lot. Because when we oppress our dark masculine, we tend to become more light masculine. And when love making, it's really beautiful, it's really romantic, but it's not animal. And then, yeah, in consequences, if you do this over time, you start losing your confidence because you don't feel your masculine power. And there's where we see again woman pointing out like, man, just take me. I want you to take me. The light masculine does not take. He's more like a pleaser. The dark masculine is more like an animal, and he will take. So now I'm sharing about the love making intimacy benefit of embracing your dark masculine, but there is also these benefits in business, in life itself, in confronting situations, in conflicts, in problem solving. It is something that is really helpful to, for example, push forward a project, an idea, a revolution. So in feminist movement, we could say and we could attribute the movement and the initiation of that movement of the dark masculine energy stepping up in the female body due to oppressing because of those male bodies being abusing constantly the female body and constantly abusing it. At some point, masculine, dark masculine steps up as a warrior and say it's done. So we could keep going in this subject, and this really gives a lot of ways to have a conversation of. It is related to so many topics, and there's so many ways where we can say, wow, yeah, this is a lack of dark masculine, or this is a distorted masculine. But I will keep it short. Basically, my intention with this recording was an invitation to embrace your dark masculine, to observe when you have a lack of dark masculinity or when you have a distorted masculinity. Usually, when you explode and you become angry, it's a sign of distorted masculinity because the healthy masculine is centered and is sharp and he can hold space for emotions and still be centered. And when you have a lack, it's the typical male body that is too much in its feminine and lacks of power or decisions. So this is something that you can observe and use those tips that I just shared just to have an observation and see if you can embrace the dark masculine and just allow it to be and just observe it and give it space into your life. Talk about it with your partner if it's needed, but together you can start embracing it and you will see the effect of just observing and accepting the effect that it will have on your daily life. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope this gives an extra insight on our daily life, on the fact that we're in those male bodies with different types of energy. And I really do hope that together we can heal this dark masculine and that it's less oppressed and more embraced and way healthier than it was before.